Well, hello and welcome to Wellness by Design. Today, I am your host, Jane Hogan, the Wellness Engineer. And today I'm talking about a subject that I found super fascinating. I find super fascinating. And that is the universal laws. So these are generally considered to be 12 universal laws that govern life, nature, everything. And I'm fascinated with these because I believe if we understand the laws that we are working with, then that can help us on our healing path. So I hope you are excited about this topic as well. I've been introducing the laws to my email community over the last, several weeks, taking one law each week. So I'm going to tell you about them in their entirety today. Now, it's going to be a little bit of feeding you with a fire hose, but I wanted to give you an overall, like the big picture of what these 12 laws are, a little description of each one of them, and then how I believe you can take this and apply it to your health, or at least partially, in part, apply to your health. So I've got, I can't remember all of them off the top of my head, so I will be looking at my notes. So why am I doing this? As I mentioned, what I found for me, I didn't know about the 12 universal laws when I was doing my healing journey, but I kind of knew about some of them. And you've heard for sure of the law of attraction. That's one of them. But there are other laws as well. And when we understand these laws and understand that they're always working, whether we believe in them or not, or whether we choose to ignore them or not, they are always in operation. And I just feel like it makes a whole lot more sense to understand the laws and then work with them so that we can help our health, help our lives, right? We can live in a more harmonious way when we are working in harmony with these laws. All right, so what are they? Where do they come from? They're generally accepted to be the ancient, learned by ancient cultures. So when going back way back to the ancient Egyptians, the Greeks, but most of the Greeks, they say that a lot of the ancient Greeks got their wisdom. They got it from the ancient Egyptians. And so they are intuitively known by ancient civilizations. So let's go over each one of them. Shall we do that? Okay, so first one, these aren't really in any particular order. This is often given as the first one because it's probably like most, what would you say, applies to everything. So the first one I'll mention is the law of divine oneness. Law of divine oneness, sometimes just called the law of oneness. And this law states, or this law is about the connectedness of everything. There really is only one thing. Oh, and I wanted to mention something else too that I find very fascinating is in the newer physics, these tend to also be supported. These support the universal laws. So this connectedness of everything, the law of divine oneness, that is actually being proven by modern science. So I kind of like that. So this says that everything is connected. So if everything is connected, we are connected to everyone that's around us. We are connected to everything in nature. And so, how might you apply this law to yourself and your health and your life as you're going through it? Well, I think, first of all, just remembering that we're all connected helps you feel a lot more compassionate towards other people. But also, I think about our world as well, and that with everything being connected, then what we do to ourselves also affects everyone around us, also affects the earth, also affects every little creature in the earth. So law of connectedness, law of divine oneness, everything is connected. The second law I'll mention is the law of cause and effect. This one, we kind of knew about this one in engineering, right? We kind of saw this one in engineering. It's, for every action, there's a reaction. So this is kind of related to karma as well. And I think about it when I think about health, that everything happens for a reason. And so what might help you if you are going through a chronic condition is to remember, there's a cause and effect, if there's a reason for this happening, and the reason might well be that it's happening for you, not to you. And so maybe this brings you a little bit of peace if you're dealing with a chronic condition. Law of vibration. Law of vibration. This law says that every particle is in constant movement and vibrating to its own frequency. So basically, everything is vibrating to a frequency. Now imagine, this is an ancient law now being proven by modern physics. Quantum physics says that everything is energy, everything is vibrating. So it's kind of helpful to think about that everything is energy. And if everything is energy, then we are going to be affected by the energy. That's another law though. But just understanding this as a basic foundation, that if we are energy, then if we're experiencing a chronic condition, it is part of us not vibrating at the frequency, at its optimal frequency. So it's kind of interesting to think about this concept that we are vibrating, but also that like every organ, every cell in our body has its own optimal frequency. And so if we're not at our optimal health, then something is not vibrating at its frequency. So I find this ties back. This is so interesting, right? That Chinese medicine knew this. Acupuncture, it's all about meridians and energy channels. And a lot with acupuncture, they're fine tuning and opening these energy channels again. And so we want to get that energy flowing to allow parts of our body to vibrate at the optimal frequency again. This is why there's a lot of other modalities as well. Like there's Reiki, there's people go to energy healers who just basically can sense energy, sound energy, vibrations, sound healing. All of these are just different modalities that help to get the energy, the frequencies where they should be, so that things can operate ideally. So in terms of health, if you just understanding this concept and accepting this concept, like I said, these are operating whether you choose to accept them or whether you choose to ignore them or not. These laws are always in operation. So why not accept the possibility that I am energy and things may not be vibrating at the correct frequency? And so there's always a reason for that, right? From the law of cause and effect. So why might that be? Are you putting yourself in an environment where you are exposing yourself to ideal frequencies? Okay, and we'll come to that in another one. They all interrelate. That's what I find is so fascinating. Okay, so the law of vibration, everything is vibrating. The law of correspondence sounds kind of funny, but the law of correspondence says that patterns are continuously repeating. I like to think of this as the microcosm reflects the macrocosm reflects the microcosm. Way back at the Emerald tablets, there was a quote that said, as above, so below, right? Our thoughts is reflected in our body. Our inner world is reflected in our outer world. So this is quite fascinating, right? And there's lots of different ways that we can think about this law and our health. So a big way is thoughts, okay? Our thoughts end up getting reflected in our physical body. So examine your thoughts. What thoughts are going through your mind most of the time? Do you basically love yourself? Thoughts like that make a difference. How do you, what words do you use? Notice the words that you're choosing all the time. I also think about this as the microbiome and how the microbiome, so that's the collection of microorganisms that are in us, about 80% or so in our gut, but they're also on us, on our skin and all around. So these, the health of this microbiome, right, is directly related to the macro health of us. Here's another level to it as well, though. So the health of human beings, right, is reflected in the health of the earth, right? So they're related. All of these are related. So what can we do? We can come back to that microbiome, and how can we support that microbiome? So you want to have like eat probiotic foods, which would be helpful to support that microbiome. Eat vegetables that are going to support that microbiome. Avoid having processed foods. Avoid, well, not avoid, but like only use antibiotics when you absolutely must, because the antibiotics will wipe out that microbiome, and then that's going to in turn affect our health, right? So just knowing that all of this is connected is helpful when it comes to like, how can I make this help this physical vehicle that I'm in get well again? Let's see, moving on. Another law. So I'm up to one. What was that one? 1, 2, 3, 4 was the law of correspondence. 5, the law of perpetual transmutation of energy. The law of perpetual transmutation of energy. It's a mouthful. It says basically that energy is always flowing. Energy is always flowing, and we're always absorbing the energy that is around us. So that could be the energy of the earth, right? And around the earth, so EMFs and so on. Or it could be, you know, lack of EMFs. You're out in nature, you're absorbing the energy of the trees, you're absorbing the energy of the beautiful surroundings, the people that you're with. And yeah, so we'll think about what kind of energy you're absorbing, and also think about it the other way too. What kind of energy are you sending out to the people around you? But you can be sure that energy is always flowing. Okay, so the next law is the law of attraction. So this is the one you probably heard of, that like attracts like. So basically, you are putting out a vibration. You're going to attract, or frequencies. You're going to attract similar vibrations or frequencies back to you. So again, we've heard about it. We know it now, also proven by quantum science. And so think about this as well. What do you want to attract to you? I heard the author of the lady that wrote, well, I guess was the brains behind, the producer of the movie The Secret, which was all about the law of attraction. A glass of water. And she said, think of the law of attraction like a photocopier. So whatever you're attracting, it just goes out, produces more of it. So be very careful about, what are you focusing your attention on? What kind of energy are you putting out there? What feelings are you putting out there? Feelings are really vibration, the physical vibrations of our thoughts. So what are you putting out there? Because you're going to keep getting that back. So if you want to create a different version of you, a physical version of you, because the one that you did create before, because you did create it, was created pain. And if you want, or whatever chronic condition you have, if you want to make a change, then obviously we've got to be sending out a different signal to direct something different back. Okay, so what are you sending out? Think about that. Okay, the next law, the law of inspired action. The law of inspired action. This is basically about that we all have innate desires. Okay, we are born with these desires, and that it is our destiny to fulfill those desires. And I honestly believe that if we are not fulfilling our desires, if we're ignoring our desires, then we're creating disharmony within us. And even if we are not thinking of it, we are aware of it. And so that creates stress in the body that then leads to dis-ease. So what have you been called to do that perhaps you've been ignoring? Maybe you've been ignoring it your whole life. Maybe, I mean, I'm not saying change your job, but maybe your job is not right for you. Or maybe you aren't, you've always wanted to pursue art, for example, and you haven't made that space for that in your life. So, and it may sound like it doesn't have anything to do with health, but it really does. So you may, if you go back to what did you love to do as a child, this can give you some idea of what your innate desires are. What were you good at as a child? What did you love to do as a child? This is part of your calling. This is what you knew as a child before anyone told you to do anything different. This is what you knew you were meant to do. So go back there, have a look at that, and see, is there something you could honor today in those desires? Next one is the law of compensation. So this sounds, or it is like it sounds. It's basically you get what you give, you reap what you sow. So what you put out comes back. So I would look at this for health and say, well, what have I been putting out there in terms of my health? How have I been honoring my physical body? What I put out there, I get back. I reap what I sow. Have I been treating this vessel in a way that is supporting its most healthy unfolding? So, moving on, the law of relativity. The law of relativity. Nothing is good or bad unless compared to something else. So, sometimes, especially when we have a chronic condition, it can seem very bad, right? But sometimes, and maybe you've noticed this, you can go, I find there's someone worse off than you, right? And maybe in the in our tiny little world, what's going on with us is very small when we compare it to the entire world. So that one's kind of a big one. What I would say is this is a great chance to practice gratitude. Pull gratitude in. So in other words, yes, going back to a time when I was in pain, I am in pain, but I'm actually, compared to yesterday, I'm feeling a little bit better, and I'm grateful for that. So that's how I would use this, just kind of say, let's kind of say, well, in the scheme of things, I am still safe. I still have a roof over my head. I still have a loving family. I still have my thoughts. I still can see, I can hear. I can go out for walks in the fresh air, right? So when you compare it to those things, I still have a lot of good things to feel grateful for. The law of polarity. Law of polarity tells us, so this, we're up to number 10 now, tells us that everything is comprised of opposites. We can't have one without the other. And I think about this as that, yeah, we can have, we can't experience love, for example, or we can't experience the heartache of love lost without having experienced love. We can't experience a feeling of wellness without understanding a feeling of not wellness. So there are always opposites, and so let's kind of just understand that there are opposites in life. And while we may be having a down day today, there's a potential for things to come up. There will always be. Life has those kinds of opposites. It's not all one or the other. So I hope you find some comfort in that. The law of rhythm, number 11, says that everything follows cycles. There is a rhythm in life, there's ups and downs, there's going around in cycles. Just think about the seasons. We have the seasons, which are constantly repeating. We have day and night. In order or to apply this to our health, I would say, think about, are you honoring your rhythms? So we are beings that live in this universe that has natural rhythms. Are you honoring those natural rhythms? Are you going to bed and keeping daily rhythms? Our bodies crave same rhythms day after day. So are you keeping these rhythms? Do you have a regular bedtime? Do you have a regular wake up time? 7 days a week, not different on the weekdays and different on the weekends. Are you eating at regular times? Are you getting out and getting movement at regular times? So all of these natural rhythms that are part of nature, these also are part of us. And so honoring those can help us with our physical health as well. And lastly is the law of gender. The law of gender says that there's masculine and feminine elements of everything. So like a yin and a yang. So even though, I'm female, I have a masculine side as well. I need to honor the masculine and the feminine. So let's just talk about those energies. So the masculine energy is like the doing, the going, the assertiveness. The feminine is the receptive, the relaxation, the nurturing. So are you honoring both these genders in your life? Are you doing too much going and not enough relaxation and nurturing? So that's a big way that I see it in a lot of people that are trying to address some health issues. So most often it means honoring that more receptive, nurturing side of themselves. So that's a lot in one day. Like I said, it's a fire hose. So we had the law of divine oneness, number 2, law of cause and effect, 3, law of vibration, 4, law of correspondence, 5, law of perpetual transmutation of energy, 6, law of attraction, 7, law of inspired action, 8, law of compensation, 9, law of relativity, 10, law of polarity, 11, law of rhythm, and 12, law of gender. So this is just a really brief introduction, and I find them fascinating. And I do find that the more I'm aware of and honoring these laws in my life, the more I am supporting my physical, my emotional, and my spiritual health as well. So I hope you find these interesting as well. You might want to start looking into it a little bit more. I'm probably going to be teaching on these a little bit more. And I always end with, what's one thing you could do today? So for you, something stood out, or what's one thing that stood out from these things that I mentioned today? Could you take that one thing and over the next week start implementing that one in your life? Start honoring that law in your life, and then notice, how do you feel when you do it? How do you feel when you're more aware of these? And also, understanding and knowing that there are laws that you can follow. I hope that this helps you feel more empowered. That's always my goal, is to help you feel more empowered in your health, because we've got a lot of we've got a lot of systems working to disempower us in our health, and that's the opposite of really who we are. You can see with these laws that we have a lot of power with our health. We can create a state. I was talk about create a state of body, mind, and spirit that allows the body to heal. We can create the environment, and then the body does its own natural healing work on its own. Okay, my loves, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this topic. Let me know what you thought. Leave a comment. Would you like to learn a little bit more about any of these universal laws and how to apply them? And also share this. Share this with someone who might need to hear it. And if you haven't already subscribed, then please hit subscribe, and it just helps this podcast release. It helps people who need to find it more easily. And so I thank you so much for that. And I'll see you again next week. Bye for now.